turns into Freddy versus Jason Part 2.
Ugh, that shouldn't have been a part 1.
Whoa.
No.
Whoa.
No. Hard no.
Hard no.
I maintain I hated that movie. I hated it.
It's one of Jeff's favorite openings is our Home Alone, where I'm just like, what? You hated that movie?
I hated that movie. I told you I waited half my life for that movie, and it disappointed me. It wasn't worth it. Half my life is a long time. So they should have delivered. So
I mean, were you entertained?
no,
She
I
left the theater. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the show where we are your hosts, Colin Peters.
The bastard son of 100 maniacs here.
John, you should be glad that we have a new guest, or I would insult you directly.
Is that right?
Yeah. And of course, Jeff Manfred.
Today, we got two special guests with us today. By the way, guys, that was a weak opening. Come on,
Was it what?
John. You could be more insulting to John than that.
That's
You wanna
right.
be insulted?
Once again, this is 2 strikes on you. 2.
I know, right? I feel like I'm letting you guys down lately.
Yeah.
Try it again.
You got the end of the episode, so think of
I'll
something
give it
better.
time. I'll build it up this time.
So anyway, we have our official Scream Queen and final girl, Jenn Harding, is back with us today.
Yay.
And we got a new.
Clap with that.
I can't believe you broke that out of the box either, John. I mean, that all
First time in like 6 months. I haven't taken this thing out since.
Jeez, it's horrible. But anyway, we got a brand new special guest with us today, Jay Dietzel. Jay, welcome to the show, man.
Thanks for having me, guys. Appreciate it.
Jay, you want to tell everybody about yourself real quick? Everybody know who's listening?
Put me on the spot.
We always do.
I like long walks on the beach. And basically big horror fan. Local to Pennsylvania as well too. Kind of a amateur filmmaker as well. That kind of fills my spare time when my kids aren't filling it. So nothing too exciting though.
Hey, we don't have anything exciting either. That's why we're doing this.
Oh my gosh.
It makes it fun.
Now, Jay, is there anything that you're working on currently you're allowed to talk about? Since you said
Yeah.
filmmaker?
Yeah. Two things. Our current wrapped film is currently making the festival circuit. It's called Secret Weapon. Yesterday is today. Written and directed by Ken Sagos, aka Kincaid from the Nightmare on Elm Street series.
Oh, nice.
It is based upon the children's civil rights movement, and it's a historical picture that's going not horror related at all. And it's currently making the festival rounds, winning some awards and somewhat, doing pretty well so far, which is good.
Awesome.
So in the meantime, we're getting the ball rolling on Ken's next film, which is called Socrates. Big change. Goes from his historical civil rights drama to a horror film. Again, kind of a not necessarily within the civil rights genre, but within the Jordan Peele social horror type idea, where it has that background with slavery and whatnot, and bringing an urban legend to life with a killer parrot. So it kind of we're hoping going for something more close to the birds rather than Birdemic. I know we're talking here, but we're currently in pre-production for that. Yeah, still gathering funding, and eventually we'll be hopefully sometime soon getting the fundraising up for the crowdfunding, I should say, ready for that too.
Awesome. This sounds interesting. Sounds fun. We all can't wait to check it out.
Oh,
sure.
absolutely.
It's exciting stuff. We're all excited for you.
Thank you.
And that leads us into this discussion. The reason why we got a party here today is because we're talking about a pretty movie, yeah. A pretty awesome and amazing movie that we all loved, and Jenn couldn't stop talking about and saying, "Hey, when are we doing this episode? When are we doing this episode?" And speaking of Ken Sagos as Kincaid from the Nightmare on Elm Street series, we are going to be talking about Nightmare on Elm Street 3: The Dream Warriors today, which he was in.
Yeah.
Indeed.
The best.
We actually were.
It's my favorite out of all of the Nightmare on Elm Street. It's the best.
This is like one of the favorites out of like the series that it seems like everybody really loves. I remember when Jeff and I went to our first horror convention together, that was like a very Nightmare on Elm Street 3 themed, and including the last one that we went to.
Mhm.
Yep.
Down in Oaks.
I think the first time was everybody but Patricia Arquette. So same thing as this current one too.
I think there
Yeah,
were a
that's the
couple
case.
that weren't
Yeah.
there, but like I think there were more people here the last time.
Mhm.
They were. This was the first time. I've already met Ken before. I was already friends with Jennifer Rubin, but this last Monster Mania in Oaks was the first time I met her officially in real life.
Oh, that's awesome.
That's
She's
so
just
cool.
as awesome. She is. Like, we had coffee before the convention opened. She literally was the sweetest. I love them. So that just makes me love it even more because it was already my favorite movie, and now I'm like, and Ira was so sweet. Like, he stopped to talk to me. I loved it. This was also my first Freddy movie that I saw on my own. You know, I was raised on horror movies, so I never really had a choice. They were just on, but this is the first one that I went and saw it myself. Like, I chose to watch it. And we'll get to it later, but it also has the death scenes that when you think of Freddy, like, you automatically, you know which one I'm talking about, I'm pretty sure, but there's lots to talk about. So we might go over 2 hours, just so you know.
Ooh.
Yeah, this movie really is the best. I don't think it strikes anybody like the other sequels did. It was totally different from the second movie. The second movie felt like it was not even related to the franchise. At that time, they didn't really know what the
Mhm.
franchise was going to
Yeah.
be anyway. But this felt more like it could actually be a Nightmare on Elm Street 2 than what Nightmare on Elm Street 2 actually was.
A lot of people have said that. I know, like, Wes Craven didn't think that this franchise should be a franchise. He didn't think the first one actually would have any legs to make sequel after sequel. But even though the second one did make money, he thought the potential, okay, maybe there can be more of these films, which is, I think, is why he was brought on to be a story credit for Nightmare on Elm Street 3. His ideas didn't get used. He would scrap them and save them for New Nightmare because his approach to Nightmare on Elm Street 3 was more meta. You know, Freddy invading the dreams of the cast members and the crew members and basically killing off the actors and the crew members of the franchise. So he would use that for New Nightmare. And Frank Darabont, who's famous for The Walking Dead and Shawshank and Green Mile, he and Chuck Russell wrote the screenplay where they actually scrapped some of his ideas, and that's what we got here.
Yeah, they said Wes Craven's script was originally like really dark and vulgar.
It was supposed to harken back to the first movie.
It was like everything in the kitchen sink just turned up to 11.
Right.
They said it was just like way too intense, and there was just like so much more magic and just like out there stuff that they were like, okay, there's really no structure.
He definitely goes from child murderer to almost like multimedia icon, where he's now in the mainstream in this movie.
Yeah, I remember watching the documentary Never Sleep Again, where they talk about how this is where they felt like in pop culture that he really, Freddy Krueger, came into his own as a character that was just all over the place. And it's easy for that character to do because he can talk. He's more animated. And his powers are not as limited as some of the other slashers and other characters at that time. It was very unique and it's very memorable. Like how Jeff has the sweater. It's like all you see is that and go Freddy Krueger. A brown hat and you go Freddy Krueger. The glove,
The glove.
obviously. So like you don't even need to take like 3 of his elements, to even combine them to go, oh, I know what that is. You can just take one, separate them. So it just goes to show the power of that character.
Well, I think by
And
3, the nice part is he went from the horror, scary villain from 1 and 2. He kept a little bit of that for 3, but then you start introducing the campiness, the quips, and that started before you get the full on. Part 4 I call MTV Freddy.
yeah,
Pretty much.
Yes.
He's going full, and I love 4 too. Don't get me wrong. People will bash 4, which I don't get. I love 4.
I don't bash 4. I like 4.
No, I like 4 as well too. And people will bash at him being, overboard. I'm like, well, no, 3 led into 4 because 3 he still had his horror elements, but had the fun, one-liners, everything else like that. And by the time we get to 4, it's a little more of that, a little less dark, which is fine. It's great. I mean, like it was that perfect balance, I think, and that's why 3 is so successful as it is. And honestly, it's not just this franchise. When people talk horror sequels, this is the pinnacle. I can't think of many horror sequels where they'll say this sequel was as good or almost even better than the original.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, I hear so many huge Freddy fanatics say that this might even rival the original for them. It's usually like this close to like making a list of which one's better.
Mm-hmm.
And you can definitely tell distinct difference between this movie and the first 2 that came before it, because it was like so independent, so raw, so gritty, so low budget. But here they actually had some money. They could play with it. They increased effects. The makeup was different.
Yeah.
They had more cast. They had different sets and set pieces. They were able to expand. And I think by like what you said, Jay, the time when the 4th one came out, it was just, here's like super globs of money, and let's just, he's obviously the main character, so let's just focus it on him and make it entertaining. If we can't make it scary, let's just make it entertaining. And I think that's the saving grace about 4 that people don't understand, is that was just Freddy being entertaining.
Mm-hmm.
They dropped off after 5, but that's
I'm with you on that.
They bottomed out. Give him sunglasses. Give him sunglasses in part 4. Make sure you do that.
Mm-hmm.
And a beach scene.
On a beach.
And a beach scene. A Jaws reference.
Yep. Yeah.
With the glove as the fin.
Yeah,
the
but
funny thing
you
you brought this up being. Oops.
Oh, sorry, Jeff. Go ahead.
I was saying the funny thing is you brought this up being like one of the fan favorites. I literally just had an argument probably earlier this week about whether or not this is probably the best movie of the franchise. Going in my fashion, I was going to be a complete asshole about it, but I'm like, I thought about everything that they were stating, and it's almost exactly what you stated, Colin, that it had everything that it needed to actually rival the first one. And I actually backed down because I thought about everything that they stated, and I'm like, yo, it actually makes sense. Like the first one brought the character to light. It made it dark. It made it what we know now. But 3 is the one that took it to the next level and actually made it enjoyable to watch, made it funny, but also kept that horror element in it. And it was actually like when I was sitting there going, holy shit, yeah, like, all right, man, I got but I understood now, like, yeah, this is a fan favorite. And after rewatching it, I'm definitely could say it could rival the first one, but I'm still gonna 100% enjoy the first one.
I don't blame you on that. I don't blame you on that at all.
I think we've gone beyond the trilogy mark for films anymore. Like, especially when I was watching the Dark Knight trilogy, I thought, it always felt like 1, 2, and 3 don't really tell a story anymore, because usually, like, especially when we think of trilogies, they come more in the form of a book, and we can go past an introduction and give more, when in a movie you're only limited to like 2 hours primarily. So a first movie feels more like an introduction. The second movie feels like here's a little bit more beef to the story, and then the third puts a close on it. When now I think we're at the point where we get an introduction, you get a little more beef, and then you can tell another story and then add a conclusion to cap it off.
Yeah, but then they circle around, and then for the 4th,
and then
it's always a
back.
prequel.
Mm-hmm.
It's a prequel to explain how you got to the first one. So.
Exactly.
And that gets annoying.
Yeah, I'm actually surprised they haven't done that with Freddy, honestly.
I think
Because-
there's some rights issues with that, because I don't think New Line or Warner Brothers have the rights or the full film rights primarily. I think some of them actually have gone back to Wes Craven's estate. So I think that's why we haven't really had anything Freddy related. I think there is still some Elm Street property to Warner Brothers in association with New Line.
There's something out there. Yeah.
But I think getting a movie going, you have to run it by his kids or something first. So that's why we really haven't had anything.
And you don't want to risk it having like the new Freddy.
Yeah, no one. Yeah, everybody got so upset with Jackie Earl Haley. Yeah,
We
you're
had
right.
that in
Yeah.
2010.
Freddie, I'm like, well, it's a different version. I get they're going different,
Yeah,
but you're right.
he's
Yeah.
like the Wish version. He's the
Yeah.
version you get if you order Freddy from Wish.
I don't even really blame him for that, but that's
No.
a perfect example
No.
of like attempt and fail.
That was all director, in my opinion, and the script.
Yeah.
Oh,
And
that's
the
what it really
makeup
boiled
artist.
down to.
Yeah.
Yeah, he gets an unfair rap on that. I feel bad for him on that because he did just a fine job on it. And he's a great actor. I mean, he's an amazing actor to begin with, and the
He
fact
is.
now he's known as not the good for the Wish version of Freddy. Like,
Well, that he's such an iconic character. You can't redo Freddy because Freddy is Robert Englund. You can have all the people in the world play Jason. You can have all the people in the world be Ghostface because they're behind a mask and you can't tell. Like, even with all of the prosthetics, Freddy is Robert Englund, and you can't change that because he's gonna look like Wish. You can't.
I always said, because I know he's always about now not putting the makeup on anymore, other than maybe a convention here and there. But
Yeah.
I always thought that maybe with the advances in CG and graphic and all the ability for special effects they could do right now is make him a dream character, make him completely computer animated, and just have Robert do the voice. If they're going to do something like that, if they don't want to go the route of recasting right away, he can still do the voice just fine. But again, people are still going to have a problem with that, I'm sure.
I remember saying to Jeff a while back, why don't they just do an animated movie?
Yep.
Like this was like a couple years ago. I remember because they Adam West, Burt Ward, and Julie Newmar did a Batman 60s animated movie.
Oh,
Two of them.
Yep.
And I thought, like Robert Englund still has the voice. I think we could easily have gotten like even crazier effects and like dream sequences just because it's animated. So, I mean, it's a thought, but I mean, I don't think it would ever happen. If
He's
they
rocking
would,
the beard and the mustache right now. And
I think if they would,
Yeah.
and I think if they would do it, it'd have to look like Todd McFarlane's Spawn animated show. I think that would be the right
such
art.
a great show.
That'd be the right art to go for it.
It was a great show.
But to go back to Freddy, I mean, this movie's probably what solidified Robert Englund as Freddy Krueger too, because it was, he was still kind of like Jaws or the shark in Jaws, where it was still kind of like he was here, then he was gone, did a kill, and like you wanted to see him throughout the movie. And the fourth one, he was probably in that the most on screen than anything because they were like, he's the star of the show. I mean, Robert Englund's name gets first top billing, with no question about that. And then here it was still kind of treated with the New Line Cinema text and font, at the beginning of the film, and the end credits were still like how the first movie was. And
exactly.
Then after that, it just took off. And it progresses the story very well. It adds on new additions to things that we knew from the first movie. It adds on more backstories. And that should be what a sequel does, is like it progresses. It's different. It's not wash, rinse, repeat. And like how Friday the 13th from like 2 through 4 were basically the same thing. And it's
You're absolutely right. Yeah.
It's like for say what you will about Elm Street, the series in general, but they're different. They all are different.
It's not
different
your
director
typical
coming
slasher
in
at all. And the fact they add the whole idea, 3, they really go with the fantastical, the whole dream angle being in the dreams. Whereas like, the first 2, you visit them a little bit, but really went out there with, the dream powers and everything. They got really creative. And I think that's what makes it successful. The creativity behind that is just mind blowing. And they stuck with it, which is good. I think 3, 4, and 5 make a nice trilogy on their own because they all kind of deal with the whole dream power idea. And then they got away from that. They went downhill after that, of course. But I think that whole, just being in the dreams and giving them something unique like that was just out of left field, because you could take any other slasher, and honestly, they all, you're even with the, I like Friday the 13th, don't get me wrong, but you're right. After a while, they all seem like the same thing. This just changed everything.
The whole dream factor, actually, sorry, John, the whole dream factor just opens it up. You're able to do the campy and funny, because what dream is going to be a normal like movie sequence? You're going to have like weird things, like you're going to have like the video game in 4. It opened it up. It made it so much better. I agree.
And you got to do that. You got to change it up sometimes. I mean, some of these sequels, they don't do that. They just rinse, wash, repeat. But it seems like every director that's stepped in for all of the films in the Nightmare series, they had their own spin on it, for better or worse. But Chuck Russell, this was his directorial debut. This was a big risk, too, bringing this guy on. They originally wanted Joseph Rubin, who directed Dreamscape, and he was a writer. Chuck Russell was an assistant writer on that screenplay. They couldn't get Joseph Rubin because he signed on to direct The Stepfather, which was a good horror movie in its own. So that he recommended Chuck Russell. So yeah, big risk, a $4.5 million budget when they were writing for $20 million. So New Line Cinema is still this small independent studio trying to blossom into something bigger that can rival other companies. So it was a big risk taking it on. And I thought he actually brought a ton of mythology updates, like you said, bringing multiple characters into one dream sequence and having them either separated or united. And I thought that was really cool how they did like the mirror sequence, the boiler room sequence, when you see like all the prosthetic faces on his chest and everything. That really made him back to the dark roots, but also changed up the beginning. This movie doesn't start out with a dream sequence. It actually starts out with a rockin' introduction to Into the Fire by Dokken. As she's putting together the house, it doesn't actually start with a dream sequence, unlike the other ones that actually open with a dream.
Or is it?
Or is it? Technically, on paper, they say she's still awake right now, and then she goes to bed, and then
she is still awake, because remember, she has her alarm clock, and she. Do you know? I was rewatching this the other day just in case there was some little I wanted to mention that I would have forgotten, and like with this one. Every single detail of that movie, you can like feel it. Like even the beginning sequence when she's putting together the paper mache house, you can almost feel like the paste on your fingers. You know what I mean? Like everything about just every kill scene, you can feel it. Like when she takes that spoonful of the instant coffee and the Coke, I could almost taste that too.
Did anybody actually try that? I'm just curious.
No,
you did?
I
figured you would.
I'm not going to do it.
Of course he did.
Listen, when you need a little pick-me-up, but you don't want a full cup of coffee, just a spoonful of grounds will be good.
Or take a cigarette and burn your forearm.
What?
Take a cigarette and burn your forearm. You know?
John, man.
I was thinking of like, well, I guess I don't want to get too far ahead, but like the Philip scene with his forearm when he tears him open to make him into the puppet. That's all I think about when I hear.
That's the part that I feel the most, because I'm just like, oh, fuck. It's like, could you just imagine like your tendons and somebody just like pulling like,
Honestly, that's one of the most creative kills.
It's the only like Freddy kill that like if you just go like this with your forearm, everybody's gonna know what you're talking about. They're gonna know exactly what part of the movie you're talking about, because you can like feel it. And the prosthetics there, like you said, with the budget, with like the wounds and the gore, it's perfect. I was watching it yesterday and I was like, oh my gosh, you can see it. Like it looks like his feet are open. It looks like his forearms are open.
It does.
And that smile on his face as he's walking through the hall with that, with the arms like that, just creepy.
Not to mention the stop motion that's incorporated in this. I mean, it reminded me of like Ray Harryhausen's films, you know, with Clash of the Titans and Sinbad in the Seventh Voyage. We got the skeleton coming to life. That's Jason and the Argonauts right there, and the puppet coming to life. It was cool. Like we never saw that before.
That really took it to the next level. I think it did. Other than your creative kills, I completely thought Harryhausen, seeing both of them, honestly, the claymation was amazing with just the blank figure, and then just morphs into Freddy's face. Like, oh, that is the coolest thing ever.
Mhm.
Honestly, still the best kill of the series, I'm thinking, because it's just that creative, that well done. You can't. It's hard to top that one.
Agree.
Yes.
Yep. However, 4 does come in right behind it because that's the other one that I feel like I could feel it. I don't remember the character's name. When she's working out and she's
with the
bar and then her
cockroach.
elbows.
When she, yeah.
Uh-huh. Ugh.
I still think of that if I go to the gym and I'm lifting up anything. That's the first thing I think of.
I didn't want to eat pizza for a while after I saw that movie. I will be honest.
Oh, the
Especially
soul
meatball
food.
pizza. Yeah. Now, have you guys ever seen the trailer for part 3? Like, it is, in my opinion, that not only I love 3, the movie itself, but the trailer for it is my favorite of all time. Reveals nothing much about the film, has no clips in it. It's the one that starts where they're playing the theme, or sorry,
but it's like a lullaby.
You're really slow, and you're going around a bed with a girl holding the paper mache house.
Mhm.
Yes,
Oh
I
my
did
God,
see
it.
this.
the most amazing
I never
trailer
saw it.
ever.
Oh,
You've
for
never seen
real?
it?
I'm done. When we're done here, I'm gonna look it up.
You
Oh,
must.
Okay, that's nice. And they play
And
Dream
and
Warriors, I
also
think,
when
too, in the trailer, don't they?
What's that?
Mm-mm.
Do they play Dream Warriors in the trailer?
No,
No, they
not
do
for
not.
that one.
Okay.
No, it's just the creepy lullaby that goes real slow. It's kind of toned down a little bit. They first start with the tricycle, and then they go around this little girl's bed. You don't even see the little girl's face. I'm not gonna spoil it for Jen if she hasn't seen it yet. But honestly, it had a really good creepy feel to the thing itself without revealing a single thing about the movie.
Yeah, you
So
think it's
well
a
done.
totally different movie. Like if you
Really?
watch the
Okay.
trailer, you're like, where's this going?
Yeah.
And I think they use a picture of Freddy from part 2, so you don't even get like what the new Freddy looks like.
Okay.
Which,
The logo, I think.
in
The
my
logo.
opinion, this movie was probably the last best version of the makeup. Like before
Yes.
it started looking
Yeah.
like all like plasticky and bubblegum.
It
Like,
went downhill after, started to.
Yeah, Kevin Yeager, I think, did 3, and he did 4 as well too. But by the time I think David Miller did 5, just looked bad. And I'm wondering, and I don't know if this is true or not, if it's attributing to Robert not being happy with being in the makeup chair for X amount of hours, if they were trying to find means and ways of making it easier to get the makeup on him. So in that case,
I can
the
see
makeup
that.
suffered. I don't know if that's the case. I like to think that, but knowing that was his prime complaint with the series was makeup time, that could have been the reason. But you're absolutely right. 3 is the best makeup.
It's hours upon hours just sitting in that chair applying all that work. So it'll take a toll on you. I mean, he was actually working 24 hours a day. He was working on a TV show during the day for this movie, and then he was going to Nightmare on Elm Street 3 for the night shoots. I think it was like one solid week. He worked 24 hours a day.
Oof.
Brutal.
Was that V? Was that when he was shooting V, or was that V beforehand?
I think it was beforehand.
Okay.
I forget the name of the show. It started with the word down. I don't know if it was Downtown or something, but he was working on a TV show at the same time as this movie. That was during the day. This was during the night. So
He was probably sleeping during the makeup.
Yeah, I was just going to say that. Yep.
Apparently, he did fall asleep in the makeup chair and woke himself up scared.
that's great.
But even look at the makeup for 3, that one looked like really gritty too. Like looking at his teeth, everything. It felt gross. And like waking up with that on your face, you're like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Like when he pulls that pipe out that he gets stabbed with and then he licks it, it's like, ugh.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
It's like you
It's
see
the faces of the victims on his chest, that they're like animatronics moving, screaming for their lives.
See now I know a lot of people love that, and I think the special effect is awesome, and it was a cool concept, like Freddy can trap your souls, but at the same time I felt like that was where things were going to lead to like a downfall in the franchise, because it seemed like then in 4, 5, and 6 all he wanted to do was like, I want your soul, and I was like, that was old. Like it felt like you could start doing a drinking game to like, oh, your soul, or soul this, soul that. And like every time he talked about it, it's like, this isn't Freddy. Like, give me the one-liners and stuff.
I think at that point, they might have went to the whole like dream demon at that, where before he was just a dude who was killing the dreams. Eventually, I think they got the idea of him being a dream demon. And what do demons really want? They just want souls. So maybe building upon that, that's where we finally got that whole concept that he sold his soul at the last moment to stay alive.
I mean, I get it, but it adds a new element of staying alive to the factor here. Like if you die, it's like, what's worse? You know, you go to hell or you get stuck with Freddy. You're just tormented with him the rest of your life. And that was the other thing about Nightmare on Elm Street 3 is this one actually incorporated religion into it.
Yes, it did.
And we find out about Freddy's mom at the end of the episode or movie. Same thing.
It's an episode at that point.
Amanda Kruger, yes. And how they actually defeat him is very religious too. They use the crucifix and they use the holy water, and it's the funeral. Yep, the great death scene involving like Freddy Krueger. They use like a rotoscope, I think, to create that illusion, that effect of just like the ripples of the holy water ripping his body apart, which I thought was really neat.
Oh my gosh, yeah. And they actually don't really revisit the religious aspect until 5. They kind of skip that over them through 4, which is odd because 4 is
takes place in a church at the end.
Yeah, that's true too. Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah.
Like I guess they said that in 4 that it's supposed to be the light of God that helps, like the eye-opening moment that he's just evil. But
okay,
that's for I mean, that could just be them giving us fluff.
Probably.
Yeah.
For all I know. It's like it sounds good on this documentary, so yeah, that's cool.
But if you look at the reintroduction of Freddy into this movie and the introduction of Nancy and was it Kirsten?
Kristen.
Okay. Like the way they all brought them together and showing her like power was actually really cool, and her pulling Nancy into the dream. And then Freddy coming back and recognizing Nancy, like getting that pissed off look like you. And then all of a sudden, that's it. I'm like, that's actually a really cool introduction again. It just was nice. Like him recognizing the final girl that kind of fucked his life up again.
In the form of the Freddy snake.
Yeah. And like, as I'm watching that sequence with that snake, I felt bad for her because like when he comes straight down, you actually feel that hit on the ground and everything. Like, holy shit, they dropped that poor girl.
It's every scene in that movie.
Swallowing her whole, yeah.
Like when Nancy picks up that broken mirror and then she sees she's got a cut on her hand, it's like, oh shit, is my hand cut now?
Yeah.
This movie's not even in 3D and we're talking about how it's like, oh.
Yeah.
That's what it feels like.
Yeah, part of me feels like it could have been at some point, like they were gonna do it and then they really thought against it because come on, seeing that snake in 3D, seeing the dream sequence when the bed falls through, probably would have been like a cool effect. But then they're like, well, 3D's kind of overdone. Let's just kind of keep the scenes we have, but let's move forward just as a 2D movie, which might have helped it in the long run. But yeah, I think there's too many like 3 movies as 3D. So we get like Jaws 3, Friday the 13th 3, shit like that. We don't need a Nightmare on Elm Street 3D.
It's just a gimmick. That's all it is.
Well, they tried it then.
You did.
That's right. It was
and it didn't even work.
That Freddy snake almost looked like something else when they originally filmed it. It looked like the Freddy
dick.
penis.
We all know.
It looked like a dick. So like at the last minute,
like you,
they
John.
just darkened it completely. In fact, I think one poster was banned in Great Britain because it was actually, closely relating to the film. It was the moment where Kristen was getting swallowed by the Freddy snake, and then you see his silhouette in the blue hallway. But the reason why it was banned is because this snake is eating her, and her reaction is like she's enjoying it.
Nice.
So that's why they're like, no, we're not going to release this poster at all in any of our theaters. But I think it made it like, I think it was in Korea. I think it made it there. So.
If I was New Line Cinema, I'd put that on a billboard like in Los Angeles.
Yeah, like her reactions like,
see this movie?
This is enjoyable. Like, oh God, no, we can't release this poster.
Is this hentai?
I was like, John, is this your background on your computer right now? The Freddy dick eating the girl?
Yes. Oh my god. Welcome to prime time, bitch.
All right, so that kill right there, I'm laughing at. It's probably one of the most iconic kills. But when Lawrence Fishburne walks in that room and sees the body hanging from the TV, at what moment does everyone believe that's a suicide? I'm just saying, as a logical standpoint, how the fuck did she end up 6 feet in the air, stuck in the TV all by herself?
Here's a
She had
better
a mad
question.
vertical jump. She was a basketball player.
Here's a better question. How comes we see her slippers fall off and then they're still on her feet when she's hanging from the TV?
Oh, because that's a dream
Only
sequence?
only true movie nerds like you notice those kind of things.
Because the script said so. That's why.
There you go.
But with that kill coming out, as being one of the most iconic, even just seeing the TV and the girl standing in front of it, you'd instantly know where it's from. I really like the makeup effect that they had for the animatronic head coming through the TV and how it like vacuum sealed. It was actually really cool looking, and the arms coming out. I actually really paid close attention to that because like it was nice seeing that effect because like you're like, oh, was it like a backwards effect or was it pushed forward now sucking against it? And I was glad that they ended up putting his head through. I'm acting like I haven't seen the movie in a while, and it's true. I think last night was probably the first time I watched it in a great long time.
I'll tell you that scene. I drew that scene for the last Monster Mania.
Nice.
There are lots of details in those arms. It was hard to draw.
Well, if I recall, the effects were done by Screaming Mad George. He's like
that was 4.
I thought he was consulted on 3 though.
That he might be, but I know for sure he was on set for 4.
He was on 4, but yeah, again, that's a legend.
Battle of the nerds now. Fact check.
That scene's also a dream within a dream because the talk show, Dick Cavett, he said, there's no way in hell I would ever do an interview with Zsa Zsa Gabor because he hated her. And so if there was one person he wanted to see get killed on camera, it was her. So, and he said, this has to be a dream because there's no fucking way in hell I would ever have her on my show. Ever. So yeah, kill her.
That was great. You need to study, and maybe you'll get successful. Yeah, you want to know something?
Sad was that a couple years ago she was the longest.
What you think?
Yeah. She lived to be 99, I believe. They even credit her as like the longest surviving cast member of the series, being 99 years old.
Jeez, cow.
Yeah, she passed away in 2016, I believe, but. She's been around since the 30s, but some things she said has not gone over well for a lot of people, hence why he hated her. So,
actually, I think that was my first introduction to any Gabor sister as a kid because I didn't know who they were, and the whole family was, famous for starring in things in the 60s and 70s, and I had no idea who she was as a kid. And then that's what introduced me to her. Same with Dick Cavett. I didn't really know much about him either.
Yeah, I didn't know he was like another Johnny Carson of sorts.
He was big in the 80s. Oh yeah, he was up and rising too. I think he was even in Beetlejuice too. I think
he was.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah,
they visited at the end. They were at the dinner party.
Yep.
No shit.
Oh,
he was the guy who said your art sucks.
Yeah. Like her agent or something? Was it her agent? Is that what he played?
I think so.
I think
yes.
so.
Yeah.
I never realized that.
Oh, so funny. Oh my god.
So what else do you guys like about this movie that makes it so unique, that stands out? Like, one of the big things to me is because, I had this big crush on Heather Langenkamp because I always looked at her as like my hero because I was so scared of Freddy when I saw the first movie originally, and I was probably a lot younger than what I should have been. So at first I was like, hey man, I love Nancy. She just is like,
she saved you.
So, yeah, I was like, oh man. Plus, I mean, like, she gave me this big hug when I met her, so I mean, it makes it even better.
Crushing on it.
Yeah.
I didn't get to meet her this last time. She did wave hello when she walked past, but I didn't get to actually meet her. But when I started watching Nightmare on Elm Street, I was much younger than I should have been also. And I think I told you about this before, the story. My mom, she used to just watch them all. Like I was watching Pet Sematary when I was 6. She used to have a poster of Freddy Krueger in the basement over like the dryer, which was, like very close to the boiler room. So why would you have your children go down and get the laundry when you have like a Freddy poster next to the boiler room? This is why I don't get scared anymore. It's very hard to scare
And
me.
that's why she did it.
Yeah, it was.
Odd
I remember.
story.
I remember every single detail of that basement because of that. I think I used to always have dreams that Freddy was chasing me.
Yeah, I had them too. Nancy.
Well, we all had one of those.
That's a
at
different
one
kind of
point.
drink.
Although, Jeff, remember the time I showed up to school and I had that like cut on my forearm down here, and you're like, "What happened?" I said, "Dude, I got the weirdest dream. I literally went to bed and had a dream that I was chased by Freddy in a boiler room, and it
Oh
was
my-
like, it was like a weird ass dream because I remember I ran away and my arm got caught like in between the door and it stuck, but my arm wasn't broken."
Yeah.
And
Hmm.
yeah, weird. But it had one of those windows with like the metal zigzags in between the glass. And I just remember Freddie looking at me, seeing my arm on the other side, and he just like jingles his fingers a little bit and cuts my arm. And I woke up and I had this big scratch on running down
Jesus.
my forearm. I was like, dude, I'm freaking the fuck out right now.
I gotta cut back
Heather
on
wasn't there
these
for
movies.
you then? Heather
Hey,
wasn't there to save you.
No, nobody was there. I was by myself.
But you survived. That's all that
I
matters.
did. I didn't
You
even
lived.
get an infection. And I was looking around too, like, where did I cut my arm from? There was nothing. I mean, I found like a screw laying down, but it like,
Why did you have a screw in your bed?
Hey, who doesn't like a good screw in their bed?
yeah,
Oh.
that's why.
All right.
Oh.
But
Oh
I
my
think with the film, this was the first film I had seen. Actually, the first horror film I had seen in the theaters as a kid. Again, I think the case is pretty much the same for most of us, or all of us. Way too young for a 9 or 10-year-old to be going to theater to see a horror film. And the memorable part behind this one, not only being the first Freddy film, the first horror film I'd seen in the theater. I lived in Reading, so we went to a downtown urban theater. And honestly, the best experience I think I've ever had seeing a film, because these people were yelling back at the screen and just talking back. And I'm like, this is interactive. This is kind of cool. And here I am, this skinny little nerdy, white kid in a downtown theater, and it was amazing. I loved it. I loved every moment of it. I'm like, wow, we can actually talk to we could talk to the movies. It was fun. And that made it, like the experience just that much better. And I don't know if that's because honestly anymore seems like going to the movies isn't as fun as that, because even hearing people's stories about seeing the Spider-Man No Way Home, people were cheering and everything else like that. I'm like, not my theaters. My theaters are boring anymore you go to.
Yeah.
So that was like the pinnacle. Everybody was into it. I'm like, this is awesome. And honestly, that was my gateway not only to Freddy, which I was a huge Freddy geek as a kid, but it was like a gateway into horror. It just blew the door wide open.
Nice.
Yeah, I mean, like, I feel like if this movie wasn't scary, it was still going to entertain you, but it wasn't going to go so totally over the top, kind of like how 4 did. It still had scary elements. It gave you threatening, like, oh, like, is Kristen going to get eaten? Is Nancy going to get her in time? Because we already were having a couple kids die and dying in gruesome fashion. So it was like, there was an element of like, guys got to stay alive. And it kept you on the edge of your seat. Then the doctors aren't listening to the other doctor of like, we got to keep them awake. We got to prescribe this experimental drug called Hypnosil. And, even though Nancy's taking it and saying, I think we should just do it. But they're like, this is, you're messing with kids here. And the parents are going to be super pissed if there's a bad reaction. And they're like, well, the parents are going to be pissed anyway if the kids die. So
Right.
And we're not helping by not doing anything. By doing
parents think the kids are suicidal to begin with.
Like all we're doing. Go ahead.
Oh, no. I said outside of the poster scaring me when I was little, I never felt afraid watching the Nightmare on Elm Street movies. I was never afraid of Freddy in the movie. I was only afraid of Freddy the poster.
Yo, that poster for 3 was the best.
Oh, Matthew Peak just killed it for that one. I love it. Actually, I have it hanging behind me.
There you go.
He that of all his posters, that's still my favorite. Just well done. And I actually got a chance to speak with him a couple weeks ago for another project and whatnot, and he still feels bad to this day. If you notice, the Kincaid character doesn't quite look like Kincaid. Apparently, he was told something by the studio of just these are what the characters are. He was never given headshots or told what they were like, and he felt guilty about that not representing Ken's character of Kincaid. So I actually had to put him in touch with Ken. He actually wanted to apologize for it, and Ken's like, "No, don't worry about it at all." He's like, "You made me look 50 pounds lighter, and made me look great." But I know Matthew felt bad about that as well too. But honestly, it's still on one of the best posters. All these posters are great to begin with. Let's face it. Just 3 is just it has that creepiness behind it, but still has that mysticism. You still have the house. It's my favorite.
It also kind of looks like Freddy's scared. Like,
Yeah,
oh man, they're coming after me now.
They have powers in this one. Why wouldn't he be scared?
I was going to say something about that poster. I'm glad to know that he apologized, because there are some things I've noticed on that poster where at first it looks amazing, and it does. I look very close at those characters, and I'm like, they look nothing like they did in the movie.
Yeah, probably Nancy's the only one.
I mean,
you just see the streak in the hair and the
she's wearing a
dress.
Nightgown. Kincaid almost looks like he's white at times.
Yeah, I think that's part of it. I think that's what he was apologizing to Ken for, because he does look Caucasian.
I'm glad he knows. I mean, because then I think Joey, yes, he's carrying a mace at one point, and also Taryn has white blonde hair with like leopard pants, and she's carrying swords. When does this happen?
Whoa, John, you're getting way too ahead of yourself.
I have to go back and look at this poster, because you're pointing out details I never even noticed.
I didn't really get this until I looked closely at it. I'm like, what's going on here? Like, but okay, it's good to know that he knows. He knows that he was not given enough information to go forward, and he has apologized for. Okay, fine.
Yeah, it was completely on the studio, because that was one of our first conversations. Because I reached out to him when we're again going back to the film we're working on, Socrates. I said to Ken, I said, look, wouldn't it be fun if we did just for the fundraising purpose, not to make the official movie poster, but we did. The idea I had was make a Socrates poster in the fashion of Dream Warrior. So you have the parrot's head, or like a version of it where Freddy's face would be, and instead of the claws, you have parrot claws coming out, and you have our characters on it. It's just something fun to play with. He's like, "Do you think we'll get in trouble for him?" I'm like,
there you go.
I'm like, I don't know if we'll get in trouble for. He's like, I don't want to have any copyright issues, which Ken's absolutely right. You don't want to make sure you step on toes. So out of the blue, I'm like, you know what? I found Matthew Peak's contact information on his site. I just emailed. I don't know if his handler or something was going to, get back to me. But then I got he's like, "What's your phone number? I want to call you." I'm like, "Holy crap, Matthew Peak wants to call me." And end up speaking about that. We were hoping on trying to get him to do a guest design on our poster as well too. It's kind of not going through, but that was one of the things too. He's like, you know what? For all these years, I've wanted to talk to Ken. I've wanted to apologize. He's like, "Can you get me in touch with him?" I'm like, "Of course." And Ken's like, "Yeah, no problem." He's like, I can't believe you feel bad about this, but it's good to see that he recognized something that he felt bad about. And we, as fans, we recognize that's not Kincaid. Let's face it, it's not Taryn either with her white hair and whatnot. But that's not as much as changing whole the color of their skin for it as well too. So I understand his concerns on it, and it was great. It was neat to see him actually reach out and kind of make amends, even if it just meant something for him at least.
And it's cool for Ken to be like, "Oh, that's no big deal either." It's really cool of Ken to just shake it off and be like,
"Yeah,
oh my gosh, yeah."
He's literally like the
biggest
sweetheart I've ever met. Yeah, he's so sweet. I love Ken.
He has one of the best lines in the movie.
Oh, yeah.
pussy.
Oh, I love having a nice stroll, asshole.
Yeah. Let's kick this motherfucker's ass all over Dreamland.
I think that's what makes him endearing. They wrote his character so well. It's like his one-liners actually almost rival, Freddy's in that movie.
They do. That's another like really cool thing. Like you see these characters grow, like they're defeated, they're weak. Taryn has a drug addiction. The other one is staying awake and burning herself with cigarettes. Joey's mute and he can't even explain himself anymore. And Kristen with like the suicide issues, it's like nobody will take these kids seriously. And like, look how many people do say to others like, oh, but like kids being kids, they're just being stupid. And Freddie
Will's in a wheelchair.
They were using all that weakness to exploit it, and he was just toying with them. And then finally, when they get these dream powers, the confidence just comes out, and they're just like the gloves are on. And you see it like at the very end when they all go in to save Kristen after she's sedated, and Nancy and what's the other doctor's name? But the doctor who she's working with, where they kind of look like they're having a fling with.
Oh, Craig Wassan's character. I can't think of Neil.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah,
Neil. That's Neil.
They get fired then after the one session goes bad, and Joey winds up stuck in a coma because he had the hots for the nurse, and then here it turned out to be Freddie. He like literally tongue ties him to a bed.
You know what I was thinking? I was thinking of that scene when you guys were talking about 3D. You could have had like the tongues flying at you.
Well, that's not what I'm thinking about in 3D.
Yeah, right.
Honestly, though, if you think about it, Joey has to be the luckiest character because the only 2 nude scenes in the entire series are both Rodney Easton gets part of. So 3 with the nurse, and then 4 with the centerfold under the bed. I'm like, man, he's a lucky one.
I got to give Elm Street credit that they really didn't exploit sex in these movies at all. It was just straight up entertainment. There was nothing like gritty or like unnecessary to it. It was just pure story. Like even in the bad ones, it was just story.
And you're right. Actually, the nudity service is a story. You're absolutely right. It's not like it's okay. Here's boobs. No, it's the reason because motivation for the character.
Yeah. I was gonna say, like, pretty much you don't need nudity to keep the story going, and it wasn't there like a gratuitous shower scene or whatever, because dealing with dreams is a lot bigger of a deal than some teenager in the woods or skinny dipping or someone taking a shower. It is the dream itself can be the storytelling. Like when they used the nudity, it was because it was a lure and it brought him into another room and they started there, or like in the bed, it kind of was what made him get sucked into the waterbed. Spoiler alert.
I think by this time everybody knows that you're not spoiling anything.
Everyone should have seen this movie by now for sure.
Did you guys see the alternate take where the nurse actually had the Freddy makeup on and it's just her boobs hanging out?
I heard about it. I don't think I've seen it.
I didn't see that.
They're out there.
I forgot that wasn't the original take, because as I'm watching, I'm like, oh yeah, her head's gonna eventually change, and then I'm like, wait, that's not in this version of the movie.
They said it just looked like Freddy Krueger with boobs, and they were like, why don't we just get Robert Englund?
Yeah.
I mean, I think
take it to another disturbing level.
Right.
I would be really awkward seeing Freddy with boobs, and then all of a sudden it's like, I don't know what to do with this.
Joey will be very sexually confused.
Yeah. That's when he just wakes up. And Freddy's like, hey, where'd he go?
It's clearly a dream. But I know they originally had Taryn's head explode when she was getting injected with all the drugs in her system, and they thought that was too stupid looking.
That was so cool though, with like
the suckers in her forearm and her muscles.
That's another thing. You can like feel it. You can just hear them. Like, actually, you know what? I have a shirt. With that scene. I should have wore it.
This is like one of the best drug PSAs too, because apparently a lot of people reached out to the actress who played Tara and said, you helped me get off drugs because of your character. I use you as an engine going forward. So that's pretty cool.
I was just say, please let it be a Dare shirt with that, like,
it is a Dare shirt.
Yeah, it's a Dare shirt.
It is a Dare shirt, and it has the claw with the needles on it.
I have that one, Jen. I have that one too.
It's like a baseball.
Yep, it's a raglan. Yep, I have that.
Yep. Oh, look, we could have matched.
See, we didn't coordinate.
We did it. Next time we'll
Okay.
coordinate.
You know, in general, Nightmare on Elm Street the series is a big PSA overall. Like it talks about like in this movie, especially suicide.
Mhm.
You know, that's a touchy subject.
Mhm.
Talks about drug use within teens. Like hell, there was even that scene where the scumbag doctor or nurse, I should say, sees Taryn coming out of the bathroom and is like, "Hey, baby, I got the night shift and I got the keys to paradise here." So he's like tempting her while she's in a psychiatric ward.
Right.
It's like, you know, I mean, there's scumbags like that within the system that are trying to help you out. And sometimes people don't believe it, but it can be brought to light because of a movie like this. And also, like, just going back to the very beginning of like the sins of the parents doing something that was like vigilante justice. And then when their kids like present an issue to them and they just brush it off, but then it kind of gets like pushed off to them and they get punished for it. Even though there's like an ends justifies the means morality with it. It's, you know, but I mean, like with this stuff was like brought to attention. Oh, and the other big one was the child pedophilia that they said like suicide and pedophilia was like a huge thing in the 80s where it just kind of was like sidestepped from the media, I guess, for a while. And they said Nightmare on Elm Street actually helped kind of exploit it, even though it was more subtext than the first movie and originally, which is still a big deal. I mean,
Yeah.
you know, we can't have anything like that.
I think that's why the remake has such difficulty, because they brought the forefront, the whole child molester idea to the forefront. I think a lot of people have a problem that it wasn't subtle. It was, okay, this is what it's about.
It's like that was all it was about. It wasn't even him being a child killer. It was just all like child molester. And it was like you're not telling the whole story here, guys.
Yeah,
you want to have your movie with a message, not a message with a movie built around it. That's where you fail.
Even if it's a dog shit reboot. Right, Jeff?
So when we talk about, you should probably just say the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise, because you keep saying series, and then it makes me think of the show. Do you remember this? There was a show.
Oh yeah,
there was a show.
Freddy's Nightmares.
Because that's
it's on Tubi.
I always think of that. Do you remember there was a little mini scene with it was like a plastic surgeon thing where the lady's getting liposuction. And it's Freddy with that wand. Like, I can feel that too. I would never get liposuction. I would just stay fat. I wouldn't get liposuction ever because of watching that show. And I never saw it advertised. So I remember seeing like certain scenes of the little episodes.
Okay.
But I don't remember ever seeing it advertised. So for the longest time, I'm like, did I make this up? Like, was that one of my dreams? Nobody else heard of it before. So every time you say the series, that's what I keep thinking of. I'm like, oh, remember that show?
I would say I mix up that one and Tales from the Crypt a lot because a lot of it is very similar, but obviously two different hosts.
Well, I keep thinking, was there one for Friday the 13th also?
Yeah, it wasn't like related to the franchise at all, though.
I actually get those two series confused, like with the show, because then I was like, were they done together? Like, I remember them separately, but then nobody ever, whenever I would bring it up, nobody would. I remember the liposuction scene, and then I don't know if it's Freddy or Nightmare on Elm Street. I remember like a scarecrow type scene, like in a barn.
That one.
I think that was the show.
Okay.
I don't remember that.
Television actually released their.
No, it's not in the movie. It's in the show.
Oh,
but I don't know if it was.
There we go.
I didn't hear what you said.
Honestly, TerrorVision, they were amazing. They're up and coming record. Have to be all LPs, but they actually released the entire music for the series on an album recently. And there's always, I guess, an issue with them trying to get it released on home. Well, I think what you said, Tubi has it, but I think there's always been issues with trying to get it like onto a Blu-ray or something like that because the quality, it's all video, and they have issues with getting the quality upgraded on that as well too.
Yeah,
honestly,
I would know nothing if it weren't for you guys.
You're welcome.
You're my movie nerd education. I just watched it and I'm like, oh, I like that.
Oh, that reminds me. So
I
like the
like
fact
that.
you brought up
I'm gonna draw
LPs,
that.
I was like the fact that you brought up LPs, like the box set for the entire like Nightmare on Elm Street movie series is actually
Franchise.
same difference.
Same
Franchise.
I was like, it's actually Freddy's chest from 3 with all the souls.
Chest of Souls
Okay.
set, they call it. Do
Yeah.
you have it, Jeff?
No, I was gonna buy it, but I only really wanted 1 and 3. I didn't want anything else.
You want the
Is
other,
it
yeah, the other
$20
ones.
too?
Yeah.
Oh, come on. You didn't want to hear Tuesday Night singing Running from This Nightmare?
No.
Well, faster than a bastard maniac, more powerful than a local madman. It's Super Freddy.
I know the local record shop still has it because it's still sitting there. I see it almost every time I go in.
I'm tempted. The whole scores aren't bad, but it's the scores though. It's not the soundtracks with the music, so you wouldn't have Tuesday's music on it as well too. Do you guys remember this, Gem?
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Freddy.
Ooh,
And this
set.
one's for you.
Yep. So cheesy, so bad, but I was a kid. I loved it. Freddy sings.
John
Does he,
had the
though?
old doll with the pull string.
I had the pull string
Nice.
puppet that had all the quotes, or at least like some of his, like more PC friendly quotes, because they're like, "Let's be friends. Welcome to my nightmare." It was so cheesy. I kept it in the box. I treated it like a collectible. I just pulled the drawstring like a Woody doll from Toy Story.
Nice.
It was amazing.
Well,
I mean,
nothing.
I had like a Chucky doll like that. I used to put it behind the sofa and pull it when my sister was watching
Mhm.
the movie.
Oh my gosh.
Well, nothing
That's
screams
evil
marketing
sister.
like having a pedophile doll with a kid in bed at night.
Oh my god. Jesus.
Now, I wish it would actually probably say bitch because the amount of bitches that come out of Freddy's mouth in this movie is kind of ridiculous. And
Mhm.
so, like the whole concept of Scary Terry from Rick and Morty, that's all I could think of last night when watching this movie because I'm like, as soon as he said bitch, I'm like, oh yeah. Oh, but like this movie alone, like the music stands out. Like even like we were talking about the score, like everything kind of built up nicely, and then you're having that nice like 80s metal overlay.
Soundtrack.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was nice kind of like having that because I think this was the first one that really kind of mixed them together.
Mhm.
And you
Mhm.
also had Friday the 13th Part 6 that kind of had it too. So it was like around the same time we got 2 really good soundtracks and scores kind of put together.
Yeah.
And that whole like 80s hair metal with it was actually kind of cool. Like Dokken doing a couple songs on it, which was nice.
That was
And
awesome.
I think
their
I feel
music
like they were the
before
first
having-
band that also had the music video at the end of the credits on the
They did,
VHS.
yes. In the VHS copy, they had the
Mhm.
music video at the very end. Chuck Russell was a huge fan of Dokken. They're definitely a band of their time because Nirvana was one of those bands that killed off hair metal, and they were in that hair metal quality. I love that Taryn is wearing the Tooth and Nail shirt in one of the cameras panning back because Into the Fire is from the album Tooth and Nail, which is an awesome album.
I saw
Yeah.
Dokken live.
You saw them
that's awesome.
live.
That's
Yeah.
awesome.
I think it was like whatever the year Michael Jackson died, because it was only a couple days later, and I remember him
Mhm.
playing the bass to Billie Jean, and Donnie would do like a fake moonwalk, and then he'd go, "If I knew he died, I
Okay.
would have practiced."
Gotcha.
But they still rocked.
They
didn't play.
yeah.
They didn't play Dream Warriors though. Donnie Dawkins said he can't get as high of range as he could back then, and he said even then it was like way too high. But I think now they kind of play it a little more not slower, but like they kick it down a notch.
A different key. They bring it down so he can't go so high, or at least needs to go so high with his pitch. Okay, that makes sense.
But I mean, hey, maybe they're gonna play it more now because of it. I didn't see it at that time, but then again, I saw Alice Cooper 10 times, and finally, I just saw him play Man Behind the Mask from Friday the 13th Part 6 live, and have Jason come out and kill camp counselors on stage. So
Nice.
Oh wow.
that was
Wants to put
cool.
on a show. Love it.
I would say now that you're talking about Dokken, I would say check out the PED show for Gibson Guitar. He did Donnie Dokken and Freddie Krueger, Robert Englund as his first 2 guests, and they actually got to talk about the music, doing the music video, and actually like their love for horror and where that came from. I was like, it is a cool thing. Like if you're a fan of both, especially obviously we're all horror nerds. We're gonna go for Robert Englund anyway. But
Mhm.
it was cool hearing them talk about music influences and then what influenced them into being into horror as well. Like Robert Englund said he's not a big horror fan, which all kind of blew my mind because of the amount of like horror he's in.
A lot of horror actors and actresses aren't into horror. Like, remember we talked about that with Nev Campbell.
We did the Scream Queen episode.
It was the same thing with a lot of guys who are famous for comic book stuff. They said like, I might have like read a comic book here or there.
I don't read them,
but I've never actually like I don't think Michael Keaton was ever a huge Batman fan.
Yeah.
But now look at him, you know,
it's a job, it's a paycheck.
he
So,
is Batman. Like
He is Batman.
I can't tell you, like the little kid in me going
Still says
30
it.
years and he's coming back.
oh my god. Somebody at work was trying to say, why is he the best Batman? Because I have a very simple answer. Because on talk shows, wherever
'Cause
he
he's
goes,
Batman.
he's the only one who says, I'm Batman. Like Christian Bale, Val Kilmer, and George Clooney, they never publicly say that ever. Michael Keaton is the only one who says out in the public with the cameras away from him, not involving a film set, he's the only one to say, I am Batman. And
Here's-
we believe it.
You mean, John, when you're playing Christian Bale, you don't say you're Batman?
Oh my god.
It's not the truth.
Here's the
He's the Batman for me because that was obviously I saw the show when I was little, but I wasn't into Batman. I'm still not into Batman, but that was the first one that like I watched the whole movie. Like he's the first Batman I knew of as Batman.
It's me too. Me too.
I just think too when like somebody starts it and they just nail it, like Robert Englund as Freddy. He just nailed it and he rolled with it.
Yeah.
To me, Michael Keaton's the same way. He started it, he nailed it. And yeah, we've had some good ones, we've had some bad ones, but you know, like I can say who was good, who was bad, but to me, it is that like Michael Keaton will always be that. And the simple reason, as well as not just starting it, but is because going back to what Jen said about feeling something from a movie, I feel like that's who it is. Like I just watch some of the other guys and go, that's an actor.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But to me, it, you know, feeling just overtakes just like watching it and going, yeah, you did good, compared to going, wow, dude, that hit me.
Yeah. You know Robert Englund is Freddy Krueger. He always will be. So no matter what happens.
And that's
Yeah,
what makes it hard to reboot it or change it at all because it's always going to be him. So
It's literally like a whirlpool where it's going in one direction and it's gone that direction for so long and the current is just so strong that even though like time has passed where it can just sort of like kind of be forgotten, you know, in a way to like the masses, but to go like in the opposite direction is still going to be so hard to fight that current.
Yeah.
And that's what it feels like.
Like you've said, he's been playing it for so long. You don't see anybody else's face behind the makeup. You don't even really realize anybody else's voice being projected those lines. Like, even if he is in like something else, you're going to be like automatically, you're like, oh yeah, he was Freddy. It's not like where you're looking at Kane Hodder or CJ Graham going, oh yeah, they were Jason. No, like you're going to recognize like,
I'm saying
Victor
they're in
Crowley.
the mask. Robert Englund's face is very distinctive.
yeah,
Like with or without the scar makeup, it's him.
exactly. And his voice is so distinctive. Even when he was in, I'm going to be a nerd right now, the Ninja Turtle series, he played a dream demon. And his voice
Wasn't
is
that
very
like
distinctive.
a gopher or something?
Beavers. He played 3 of them. And it was funny because each of them was worse than the next. And each time his voice got either deeper and more harsh. And I was like, as soon as I recognized who the voice was, I was like, oh, okay, I know what this is going to be like. But even that, like you're looking at him play in currently Stranger Things. They did use a lot of Freddy Krueger undertones in this last season.
Yeah, they did. Vecna. Oh my god, yeah.
And then the fact that they ended up using some of the sequences and ideas that of Freddy, you're like, all right, so now we know what this whole sequence is going to be like because Freddy is such a staple at the moment and Robert Englund's such a staple. That's why I was happy they brought him in even for just a little bit.
Yeah.
And did you guys notice, speaking of his voice, that there were times in part 3 where he actually like sounds like Robert Englund? It's almost like it shows like his weakness, like when like the big one that I remember is when Taryn stabs him and he's like, oh, why should we fight? We're all friends, you and I. they didn't do any they didn't use that vary speed to change his voice. It's just Robert Englund talking. And then when he does the let's get high and raises the finger syringes, that's when he goes back to Freddy's voice again.
Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah, movie definitely, like we said, expanding the mythology, it definitely explores the weaknesses of these characters and explores the weaknesses that Freddy might have to them. That's something that wasn't utilized in the other films beforehand.
They're just victims. As soon as you're in a dream, you're just done. Like here, you felt like they have a chance to actually escape.
Right.
Well, here's my one beef with this entire movie. All right. So it's called Dream Warriors. So when you finally get all, 6 of them together, he splits it up. You get 3 in one area, and then he kills off the other 3 really quite easily. And it's kind of annoying because I'm like, all right, I'm expecting this huge fight at the end. And you've got 6 on one, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, no, that's not how it's going to work. He's going to play by his rules.
In all battles, Jeffrey.
But I'm looking at this aspect.
Warriors die.
But they're going to die, but I expected a fight, not like, all right, so wheelchair Wizard Master, he gets knocked out like almost instantly. Taryn, I expected a bigger fight from because she was the badass. I expected more from her.
She's
but she had
still
one of the
badass. Watch your mouth.
She is. I'm not wrong. She had like one of the coolest deaths. She looked the coolest. She was the badass woman. But it's like I felt like there could have been a little bit more to it. Like, yeah, she stabbed him. He was like, oh shit. And then, all right, well, you're gonna die anyway.
Taryn probably also had one of the best unintentional funny lines. In my dreams, I'm beautiful and bad.
Yeah.
I have 2 reasons for that. 2, one being it could be budget. Maybe they wanted to orchestrate a big fight with all of them and they just didn't have all the money to do it. And 2, they're in his house. They may be the warriors, but they're in his house and he can change any kind of dreamscape he wants. If you wanted to separate them, that's what he did. But however, their strength, they found themselves to one another, especially when Joey finds his true power to scream, which I thought was like one of the best moments in the movie where he shatters the glass in the mirror room, and then they all kind of come together at that point.
Another good 3D moment.
Yeah.
Well, let's also not forget, like, they're battling him, and they're still mortal at the time.
They're in his house. He can do whatever he wants.
Immortal. Right. So I don't think.
And actually, you know what? A big fight scene like that, if they did have like a big battle, that would be an unnecessary cheesy scene. I think.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Yeah, I think they could probably do a
cheese.
better one now. Like then, I think you're right, Jen. It would be super cheesy, but I think say like if they were gonna do like a sequel now, like I always thought like it would be a really cool idea if you would do another movie like a One Last Hurrah, maybe bring like Freddy's last victim that like the one kid who escaped and actually told their parents and they got the cops involved and then.
What are the cops gonna do with Freddy?
No, but I mean, like this is before he got burned.
Oh, okay.
This is like a prequel thing, and after he got burned, the parents said like we're booking, and then somehow she comes back to Springwood later on with her kid, and then she meets up with fuck's her name from Dream Master, who was the actual Dream Master.
Alice.
Alice, yeah. And then because like her daughter's having the Freddy stuff, and then so like you're bringing in old characters, and then here you find out that the person who saves like everybody winds up being Nancy, who's like a good like dream warrior or whatever. Like I think it would be cool to like have them like combine in with that and defeat Freddy one last time, and that's how you would bring Heather Langenkamp in one more time, get like a little bit of something that you didn't know before with some older characters with Alice, and then come like full circle back to Springwood, and the whole thing is to like why it all started, and like combine them all to defeat them that time. Maybe having like too many powers would just be like it would just overdo it and look really silly and stupid. But
it's an Avengers movie.
Yeah, Nightmare on Elm Street Avengers. But Colin, it's funny you mentioned that because hearing from this past convention at Monster Mania, supposedly Ira was saying he told several of the fellow cast members that I guess Chuck Russell, maybe he's inspired by how the Halloween franchise was rebooted and kind of just didn't follow the sequels, but picked up supposedly after 1. That Chuck Russell, a director of 3, wanted to do a direct sequel to 3, which I thought 4 was a pretty good sequel anyways because it's very well tied in. because you have several characters returning. But he said he would consider and love doing a direct sequel to 3. So I don't know if that'll ever come to fruition or not, but supposedly Ira said, Chuck had told him that a while back. So maybe we will see something like that where, we can then get that big sequence.
Hey, I just pitched an idea, so
there we go.
I own that idea on this show.
Copyright of Colin Peters.
Copyright quick.
Yeah.
But that would actually be fitting to like the ending itself to the movie, because I'm guessing Kristen was saying that she was seeing Nancy in her dreams still, so Nancy could still be in the dream world as a protector, and then that's like the double ending to the light turning on in the house. Like it could have been Nancy, or it could have been Freddy.
Oh.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
I wish they would have left that sequence in, because I'm like, it left that opening that Heather Langenkamp could always come back, but yet they got rid of it because she was done at the time. So I'm like, it's kind of like a catch-22 at that moment. It would be cool.
Technically, anybody can come back if you're going through the dream thing. You can dream anybody back to life.
Right.
So technically, they can bring everybody back if they wanted to.
They wanted to.
But if somebody's dreaming it, they can be there.
And again, that was another thing about 3 that was awesome. It's not awesome, but Nancy dying added another element to the story and the lore that, hey, she survived the first time, and even though she went down in a blaze of glory, she still, she went down swinging and didn't survive.
Mm-hmm.
It's like your main character, your hero, pretty much had to sacrifice themselves just to make sure everybody was okay. When it was like sequel. Like, oh, we'll get him back. And it's like, oh, wait, she's not coming back.
Her soul could have went to the little dream doll she has.
True.
Yeah.
The little dream doll that's on her. On her.
I did love that she used his glove against him, made him stab himself in the chest with his own glove. That was kind of cool.
Yeah, one thing about that ending, it was cool, but it still kind of felt like a little bit of a letdown, because like you said, John, the rotoscoping was like really cool, and it is like that light of God that like really was like the ultimate weapon to use against somebody like that. But then I'm watching it again, and I'm like, you know what? There's like no triumphant music. There's nothing that really makes you feel like, yeah, we got him. It's just kind of like it's working and he's gone.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, so is he really gone? But then I'm also figuring, if you're using like some sort of like, whether it's Christianity or just, power of God, it's like, wouldn't you think that's the ultimate weapon, and would just like
maybe
you want to make it bigger? But again, it's still it had money to be a big budget movie, but at the same time, it wasn't like grand. Maybe they just didn't think it.
Yeah. It may be because Nancy's death at the very end was just so tragic. I mean, Patricia Arquette is holding her dead body and was like weeping over her. Maybe like the triumphant music would have been overshadowing the fact that a legacy character of this magnitude is now dead. And it's more of like a respect and mourning the losses that we have now, because it goes right into a funeral scene where we're basically going to a cemetery, and then that cool reveal, like who Amanda Kruger really was, her walking basically into her tombstone, the doctor making the revelation that that's who he was talking to this whole time. Maybe that's why there was no triumphant music, or it could have been something that just wasn't in the script. I'm not really sure, or the composer didn't have time. I have no idea.
I just feel like in general, if we didn't get a sequel or any sort of bookend, and if say like 3 would be the bookend to it, which we all know it isn't, I think it would be kind of like a bad ending. Like that's how Freddy goes, and you didn't get like anything sort of triumphant. It's just kind of like, okay, he's gone. That's how it just felt to me anyway.
I like how it went on this movie compared to the first one and the second one.
Well, by the time you get to 4, though, 4 they really go all out with the death. So I mean, I guess maybe they realized that that's why they in 4 they made the whole the chest of souls and him being torn apart from the inside from the souls of his children. So they kind of went the extreme.
Sequelitis,
Yeah.
bigger, better. Every sequel's got to be bigger, better, bloodier.
Well, that's the other thing. I think 4 had it right, where it looked like the main character was almost defeated and doesn't know what to do. And then Jay, like you said, she's able to take his past victims and release them from inside, and then he's gone. And then they didn't know where to go from there until the 5th one, and they used the baby.
Yeah, Allison
Sure.
to get him back, which was always
Sure, they use the baby. Oh boy.
Yeah. Otherwise, I really don't have too many bad things to say about the movie.
I don't.
I don't have any bad things to say. This movie was my movie before Scream became my movie.
That says a lot too.
I mean, coming in here, it was the poster thing, but that got cleared up. So now I have a better understanding about what that was, because that was going to be my nitpicky thing saying, can we please talk about the poster? But that's it. But now it's been explained to me. I'm like, okay, fine. Yeah.
See, I didn't have my fully, like, my art brain wasn't developed yet. I don't think. I never noticed the poster. I know what it looks like, but I never paid, like, now when I look at a movie poster, I pay attention to it. But I don't. Now I'm gonna have to go back and look. Now you gave me homework. I have to go back and look at the poster, and I
There
have
you go.
to go and find the trailer.
Am I turning you into a film nerd, Jen?
I'm already a film nerd. I'm just not on your nerdness level. I just watch it to enjoy it. I need you guys to tell me the other stuff. Like, I don't. I watch it and then I draw it, which speaks of every time Jay, you pop up on my screen, I keep looking. I made a movie poster for Jason, and it is not on his wall back there.
No, it's in my office, so I see it every day. I'm down in my man cave. That's actually hanging in my office right now.
Okay.
So it is. Trust me on that. That has all my production posters up. So
yes.
But yeah, and actually that did have, you drew Freddy on that, as well as the words 1, 2, Freddy's coming from you in the poster, which is great. Actually, I do have, although Jen, I do have your.
Oh yeah, there it is.
Hey,
That's awesome.
There we go. So I do have that hanging at least down here.
Good stuff. Favorite scenes?
What's that?
We probably already discussed this, but favorite scenes, and if we want to do like a recap.
I always gotta stop and watch the part where he comes out of the TV and says, "This is it, Jennifer. Your big break in TV. Welcome to prime time, bitch."
It's the best.
I think Philip's death scene is my favorite, I think. Just because it stands out. But I have lots of scenes in that movie that stand out to me, so I can't pick like a super favorite. Philip's is my favorite because, like I said, you can't mistake, like, you can feel your tendons moving you like a puppet. But this sounds like a very, like, non-important scene, but in the beginning when Kristen's running with the little girl in her arms and she gets stuck in like the mud, that brings back, like, like your childhood fear of quicksand. Like when she's trying to run away in the mud and she just can't. Like, I don't know, that's something that would happen in like one of my dreams. So
it always reminded me of another version of the stairs from the first movie.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Little scenes like that are the ones that stick out to me the most because I pay attention to those details. So, and the little sucky wounds on Terrence's arm. Sucky wounds.
I think
that's what they do. Right, they even do the little, the noise.
No, I think not only Philip's death, but you're right. The leading up to the whole design of Freddy with that claymation blows me away. Mm-hmm. I mean, Philip's death is great. Don't get me wrong. That's and you have him as a puppeteer above the clock tower, the church, or whatever where he falls from. But the claymation leading up to it, as a kid, I'm like, oh, that's really cool.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Although I did, honestly, of the deaths, for some reason, when I was younger, it just what speaks Freddy was Will's death, or Ira Heiden's death. When he pulls the wheelchair and he turns into a wizard, that really gets fanatical and really weird. But it's dark, but yet Freddy still has his quips too. I don't believe in fairy tales, kid. It is, and the wheelchair, maybe a little S&M, but the wheelchair is the one that Freddy pulls up for him is pretty brutal looking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Although
and
that's
I used to want to be badass like Taryn all the time too. Like I say this all the time with me, like knowing Jennifer Rubin now, I still fangirl a little bit because obviously her character in the beginning, like it's not like I'm aspiring to be a drug addict in a mental ward, but just like going forward, like she just evolved in such a badass. And when I was little, like she just seemed like so cool to me, and she was gorgeous, like in The Crush. Like she's just gorgeous woman. Like she's literally the reason why I started wearing black nail polish. Before black nail polish was like popular. Now everybody wears it. But I still get I get a fangirl a little bit because I'm friends with her on Facebook, and she'll comment on like the most everyday posts that you almost forget. And she's like, oh, and I'm like, hey.
That's awesome.
I know, like I love the same thing with Scream. So this was my movie before Scream. So I have the same feeling of now that I'm doing the cons and everything, and I'm meeting everybody, and it's not like I'm just going to a con and I'm paying the money and I'm taking a picture and I'm meeting somebody, which is awesome because I love to do that. But with the Scream people and the Nightmare on Elm Street 3 people, like I'm becoming actual friends with them.
Mm-hmm.
So that just to me is like an awesome feeling.
Yeah, that's just like a great gift and a blessing that just happened. That's like you couldn't have really asked for anything better than that.
Really?
And
we see these people and all of a sudden it's like, oh shit, they're talking to me now. Like it seems like they'd be untouchable at some point, and it's like, no, here we are in social media and stuff and being like, hey.
Well, Jen, wait to the point that you're watching one of the films and then you end up getting a phone call or talking to one of them at the same time. Like, this is really weird. Like I've done that with 3 already, where I was watching 3, all of a sudden Ken calls me, like, okay, this is freaking weird. So
watching you
almost meta.
One scene that this is always my personal favorite scene that we haven't really talked about, and that's the junkyard sequence. When I first saw this movie when I was younger, that is the scene I wanted to see. I couldn't wait toward the very end when you have John Saxon, you have Nancy's father coming back, and then you have the doctor. They're basically going to go on a reburial quest to rebury the bones of Freddy Krueger. You have this great sequence where they're surrounded by all these dead automobiles and they come to life with the horns and the lights flashing. It's a great set piece. I didn't know what the fuck was going to happen. And then bam, this skeleton just reassembles itself and it comes after them. Like, oh shit, this is Jason the Argonauts come to life. Like, this is my childhood. Oh my god, he's got the glove and everything. And he's taking them out, and then he does like a little chant and disassembles. Like, this is Ray Harryhausen come to life. And at the same time, he's being distracted by his body being affected in the real world, but in the dream world, he has to get the fuck out of there. And he's got to take care of his physical body as opposed to his spiritual body, which is also buying the Dream Warriors some time to find each other. I didn't piece that together, but fuck, I geek out during that scene when it comes to the junkyard sequence. It's so fucking cool.
Yo,
I'm surprised that you haven't noticed it's very Evil Dead.
Yeah.
When the skeleton comes
I love
together.
stop motion, and that just spoke to me.
It kind of made me wonder how he got the glove, though, because didn't Nancy's mom have it in the basement, and here he was with the bones with it?
That is true.
Whoa, you're messing up with the plot point here. He's a dream demon, does what the fuck he wants.
But the physical glove the mom had.
Whoa! Don't worry about that. He's a dream demon. Does
I imagine it's like a bone claw or something like that. I don't know.
But kind of, and tell you the truth, that scene at the very end, it kind of reminded me of a WWE Buried Alive match, because when he's like when Freddy's shoveling like dirt on the doctor, like all you need to do in a match is just give a little bit of dirt on the opponent in the grave, and then Freddy goes, "Ow." It's like, oh, he won.
Now I want to hear Jared the King Lawler and JR
Yeah.
Ross doing it. My God, King, he's
Oh my
coming.
God. He's not good.
Now I need to hear that. I need to see it with that.
I think we can make that work.
Oh, that'd be awesome.
Freddy versus Dr. Neil. In your house. 1987.
I do think it's funny that Jen did bring up Evil Dead, because Evil Dead 2 did have the glove.
Stole the glove.
Yeah.
Yes.
There's multiple rumors about that, whether or not they stole a glove and put it in the movie, or Sam Raimi just placed one in there because he was a fan of the series.
Mm-hmm.
Because
I think
Go
part
ahead,
one,
Jay.
she was watching The Hills Have Eyes. Or sorry,
Exactly.
part one, she was watching Evil Dead. And so they put a Hills Have Eyes poster in part two, I think. Oh, part one. Okay.
Part
yeah,
one,
it went
okay.
back and forth because the Hills Have Eyes poster. She was watching Evil Dead. So Sam went up by putting the glove in, supposedly. And then, yeah, I think it ended there after that point. And, but
Yeah. I think it's probably like
But
a playful feud that they had. Like maybe Bruce Campbell or maybe Sam Raimi visited the set and just took the glove and put it in the background of part two.
Maybe that was the glove that was stolen from the second movie. It's the
That would've
original
been
glove
even
that was
funnier.
stolen.
That's right.
But I do like that playfulness between the two. Like you said, like he had The Hills Have Eyes. Wes had Evil Dead, and then they went back and just put the glove right above the shed door. Was a nice little touch. And it's cool that, like I said, Jen brought it up, and I'm like, instantly, that's all I could think of was the shed.
I was just thinking of the dancing skeleton. I feel like we should have an episode just of you guys competing on like a horror nerd Jeopardy.
I mean, I think it'd be fun, and then you could host it.
I could be Alex Trebek. All right, that's put that burner in there. But I need you horror nerds to help me with questions, so I'm gonna need an outside nerd.
I mean, we can always have it pre-set up and then go from there. Give you like cards, and we can go from.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That would be cheating then if you guys.
No, you have all the cards. Just like you shuffle it, do whatever, and then you go from there.
Hey, if it ain't cheating, we ain't trying.
Exactly.
Final boy in Nerd Knowledge.
Ooh.
Oh, final boy. I'm copywriting it.
Yeah. Dropping the copyrights on this episode. Bam.
Yeah.
Right.
Huge.
So you guys have anything else to add to their Nightmare on Elm Street 3 episode?
Actually, the only thing I'm gonna say out of the five of us, I'm probably the only one that really was like, it's a good movie, but it's not one of my favorites. Like, as messed up as that sounds, like it's really good, but I'm like, I'm not a big fan of the Friday 13th. Wow, that's a lot.
Wow.
But I meant the Nightmare on Elm Street series. Like, I really enjoy that.
Says the
first
guy
one.
wearing the sweater.
I know, right?
Right.
That's what made it really ironic. Like, I remember saying it in the first one, like the fact that they almost glorified a burnt pedophile is what really holds me back from really enjoying the series. Like, the kills are cool, the storyline's a little murky, but yet it's not my thing. Like, I get it. Everyone has their own like killer that they like, and mine just happens to be a homicidal hockey player. It is what it is.
Says the hockey fan.
See, you're only
Exactly.
saying that because I bashed Freddy versus Jason.
No, this is my honest opinion. I don't own really anything Nightmare on Elm Street because of that concept. And like when you said earlier about the poster being above your boiler room, the only one I have is the poster above my boiler room of the original poster with Robert Englund and Nancy on it. So it just kind of like, yeah.
I don't think that far into it. I just enjoy the movie. You can just enjoy the movie. You don't need to know all the politics.
Exactly.
That it's not even a politics thing. It's like I enjoy, like I said, I enjoy them. I just not my thing. That's why I was going to start an argument over whether or not 3 was better than 1, because that's my mindset.
I see where you're coming from, though, Jeff. I agree with you. Like, it creeps in my mind every now and then. I'm like, yeah, I have all these posters, all this, these toys, these media and whatnot of pretty much it's he's a child molester or so it's kind of it does creep in my mind every now and then. I'm like, it is kind of weird that we're glorifying them too. So I get where you're coming from on that.
So yeah, I just enjoyed the movie. I just enjoyed the movie, nerds.
I know.
Yeah.
It's a movie. Just a movie.
You keep saying that, but when New Nightmare came out, that really fucked me up as a kid. Okay.
Yeah, because they let you know it's not just a movie.
Exactly.
Even that fucked me up
Real.
because I'm like, oh, thank God it's only a movie. And then that came out, and I was like, really? Of all the characters?
That, you know what? The New Nightmare actually took me a few times to actually like understand and like it. Like the first time I saw it, I was like, this is weird. Like I almost didn't like seeing them in like their natural state, like as actors. It's like, no, but I liked it.
But that led right
Actually,
to
that
Scream.
was the last thing I saw. I was with Jason. We saw that at the drive-thru at the Mahoney.
Oh, okay.
Which one was the New Nightmare?
New Nightmare.
Well, I was gonna say though, that's you being a big Scream fan. That actually, I think, led West because I don't know if he did it right after it, but that led into the whole meta film horror universe that Scream was known for.
Yeah, Scream was 96, New Nightmare was 94, so we had 2 years to basically get that film ready.
Mm-hmm.
So
you see the influences between the two.
When I first saw New Nightmare, I remember thinking it was unique. It was different. I remember being confused because it was like somebody who, like, we didn't have social media at the time, and I was still too young to really understand what the deal with that movie was. But then the older I got and the more I watched it, the more I said, holy shit, this is a really good movie. It was like really smart, really well done.
Mm-hmm.
It was totally different. And again, with somebody like Freddy Krueger, it worked with that character. Like you couldn't do something like this with a Jason or a Michael or somebody who was already made. Like maybe The Exorcist. But I mean, essentially, I mean, if you were gonna do it, Scream was the way to do it because you just reinvented a new character and brought the meta stuff in your face. And I think
it changed my world.
I also like the Hansel and Gretel folklore that is really hammered into New Nightmare. That was a really cool idea, especially with her child.
And I think that was Heather Langenkamp's best performance.
Oh yeah,
same here. That is her best, yes. But yeah, Nightmare on Elm Street 3 is great. And the one thing I also like is like we're talking about this idea of like, yes, like the other sequels, in my opinion, definitely more glorified Freddy. But once again, like this movie to the first one, he's kind of put in the background and we're focusing more on the warriors themselves, the characters. And this is one thing I love about this film. Not a single one of them is annoying. There's not a single weak link among these children, these surviving members of Springwood that are annoying.
Because you don't really want them to die.
You don't want them to die. They all are sympathetic. They're all different, and they actually have a good amount of depth to their character in an hour and 40-minute runtime, which is difficult to do. I mean, Chuck Russell kept the pace moving in this one because I like to pretend that only this one and the first one exists, and then with New Nightmare, because I really do skip 2, 4, and 5 for the most part. They're background noise, in my opinion. If they're on, even as a kid, I remember seeing this movie saying, this one feels different. Why do I like this one more than the others? I don't get it. I couldn't put my finger on it. And then seeing the talent in their early stages of their careers blossoming, not to mention this movie's got like one of the biggest casts, Lawrence Fishburne, Patricia Arquette, and Heather Langenkamp, and John Saxon
Back then
returning.
He was just Larry.
He was Larry Fishburne.
Yeah, Larry.
He was Larry before he bulked up or he, gained a little weight, but he was skinny Larry Fishburne, and all the guys were
don't talk shit on Cowboy Curtis, okay?
I even love
the red pill or the blue pill.
You're right. All the crew members were asking like Robert Englund, like, "Hey, does Patricia Arquette have a boyfriend?" Because like everyone was upset with her. Like everybody was like, "Is she with somebody?"
What if Lawrence Fishburne was actually the one who like he's really Morpheus in Nightmare on Elm Street 3, and he's giving the kids the options to like, do you want to dream of Freddy or do you not want to dream of Freddy?
Nice.
Oh my God.
He's giving them the
Nice.
hypnosil.
Oh my
Oh
God,
my
he
God.
comes back and makes like a fan made like short film or something.
It was me the whole time.
He was the one training Rick and Four in his karate dojo.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
I think
Yeah.
you just started a fan fiction. This is great.
We just punched open a huge hole in everyone's logic.
You're welcome.
Nice. Nice.
This is what I do.
Okay, so we have 2 filmmakers here. Get on it.
Yeah.
Yeah, Jay, let's do it, man.
All
Let's
right,
make it
that
happen.
Let's get Larry on the phone or Lawrence.
Oh. Yeah, but if you look at this one, like compared to 2, like 2 was another one that like I think was ahead of its time. And the whole concept of Freddy becoming real is, I think, the major issue with 2. And I think the whole crowd, general populace, that was not something they wanted. Freddy wanted to be real. He wanted to be taken serious, where that movie was doing it ahead of New Nightmare. And I think that's why it wasn't recepted well. As long as like that would have been like the major ish thing, I think it would have been fine. And it's like he just seemed really darker in that one, where this one he lightened up a little bit and then kind of still kept the darker undertones. And it was like kind of a takeaway because it seemed like a more brighter colors in this one. And as you're going through, like you said, there's a little bit more tongue in cheek with this, where that one's like, yeah, he's really pissed off that he's not being taken serious right now. And he was like very demonic. Like you said, even with the makeup, it seemed really a little bit lighter, but yet still had that nasty, gritty feel to it. As I'm trying to touch my face.
Exorcist tone to it. The second one, possession, body possession, and killing for him. Yeah.
And that one I feel like doesn't get enough credit because of what it was. It was ahead of its time. And even with all the undertones, which I would have never noticed as a kid, I don't think it should have even mattered.
It doesn't.
Yeah. And I think that's one of the things between 2 and 3 is because of that. You go from really, really dark to let's lighten it up a little bit. And then we actually have this monster that really is a smartass. And you can move forward, like you said, in the dream sequences and the colors, the makeup, the kills, everything. You can kind of make it more fantasy based because of it being a dream. And it was kind of a nice takeaway from that.
Yeah, I feel like this franchise was definitely a seed that could just sprout, if you know what I mean. Like it started off scary, it started off as a horror film, but then it kind of trickled down into something just entertaining. It was almost like a magician's secrets being revealed. So at that point, it's like, you know, the killer, you know what he can do. Nothing's really a surprise. So you might as well just like bump up the entertainment factor. And, 3 was like where they really brought the entertainment factor into the mix. And then after that, we got 4, which was like super bright colors and just pure entertainment.
Yeah.
You know, like Jay said, the kills were just so over the top and that that's just entertainment.
Yeah.
I mean, the cockroach scene, come on.
Yeah. It's director coming in, people want to keep it fresh. They want to make it seem like they haven't seen anything before because other sequels just kind of rinse, recycle, repeat. Which we've seen a number of times. Like, okay, we've seen this before. This is not surprising. So maybe that's just their idea of keeping it fresh by changing it up, introducing new kills. Yeah.
The inhaler scene where he like sucks her, like she just is sunk in.
Want to suck face?
Yes.
Oh my God.
I didn't want to go with the cheesy line. I'll let you do that.
Oh, thank you.
So yeah.
I just want you guys to know I should get proper credit that I've been holding my phone up this whole entire time.
That's
impressive.
the battery's not dead too. I'm surprised your battery's not
new
completely.
phone now. I got a new phone. I'm good.
Oh, nice.
However, now if I just all of a sudden fall off, that means you just jinxed me and my battery.
Of course, it would be John that would do that too. But yeah. Oh, sorry.
Say, does anybody else have anything else to say?
Yeah, I'm gonna top it off by just saying I cannot talk good enough about Nightmare on Elm Street 3. I always find the pure entertainment with it. I think it's one of those movies that even if you're not a horror fan, you'll still love it regardless. If you get introduced to Freddy Krueger, you go, oh man, this dude's kind of funny. It's entertaining. He can be scary. Like that's a good, like well balanced mix of this character.
Yeah.
Um, hell, even Jackie and I, like when we watched it the first time, she's not a big horror fan at all. And I remember her saying the first time that she watched it that she was like, I love this movie. And we just watched it again yesterday to, catch up on, get a refresher on it. And
That's what I did.
I even said to her, I was like, so why do you like this movie so much? And she goes, I don't know. I think she even brought up Nancy and saying, like, I just like how she was just so ballsy and more heroic in it and just not afraid to, like, get in there and take on a spiritual entity and just kick ass and be like the big sister that everybody needs when nobody believes them. And I think that was like the really cool thing about this. It was like, like as a kid, it's kind of like you want to grow up and be like almost like a superhero in a way, but then unfortunately reality sets in and we become adults. This isn't like what we get. So this is kind of like on the verge of a comic book movie meets horror. And it just has this like fun beat the villain. There's a more conscious effort to stay alive because of the soul sucking Reaper. He is the entity, but element to it. Music's great. You can tell they upped the budget, made it a little more serious. I love the characters in it. There's just a little more like nitpicky stuff, I guess I can be critical about it, but I think it's an easy movie for everybody to enjoy. There's not really like even those gross moments that just make you go, oh, what? It's just kind of like
the sucky wounds do that. That's what I'm just gonna call them. The sucky wounds.
The sucky wounds.
The suckers.
Yeah. Little suckers.
But I think it was made well, especially for that time. And I think it's also been like a big inspiration to other filmmakers. Like the whole franchise really has been. Like the first one to me will always be my ultimate favorite in the franchise, just because of like the backstory and the story of what originality was there itself. Usually that's where I go, but I give a sequel credit where credit's due. And if it is better, I will say it is better, but in this case, it's like this, but number one still for me. There's really no wrong choice, but I still think like if you want scary and real horror and like talk about feeling, I just go straight for the first one. You want entertainment with some horror elements to it that you can just watch and kick back and go, oh yeah, watch it. Watch part 3.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think it's funny how this one is my favorite, and then I go into my whole love of Scream because Wes did both, obviously, but then in this one you have Patricia Arquette, and then I have David Arquette in Scream. It's
siblings
for me. I just stick with the same theme through all my favorites.
And now we got no Wes and no David Arquette in Scream anymore. So what are you going to do?
I watched 5 the other day again when I was doing stuff. I usually have Scream on in the background because I don't have to look up. You know what I mean? Since I know everything by heart, I can draw and still be entertained. And I looked away. I didn't pay attention to that part. Made me sad.
Let's go to Manhattan. Let's all go to Manhattan now.
Yeah.
You know what? I'm not reading up on. I don't read up on the new Screams. Like before 5 came out, I wouldn't watch the trailers. I don't read anything about it, and I'm not doing it with 6 either because it means too much to me, and I don't want to get disappointed. Because the day that Scream disappoints me, I don't even know what I'll do. I don't even want to admit it.
Some big magazine apparently spoiled the ending, and it pissed a lot of people off. I ignored it, but it was circulating online.
I won't even.
Jen, welcome. I'd say, Jen, welcome the rest of the franchises that have really bad sequels.
Yeah, see, no,
that's the only time you're gonna be like,
I loved all of them. See, actually, I do have a question for you nerds, because I don't want to Google it, because I don't want to end up reading something that I don't want to end up reading something I don't want to read. 5 was done by the guys that did
Ready or Not.
Ready or Not. Are they doing this one also?
I think so. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
See,
well, what's her name's in it?
Because I really
Samara
like.
Weaving.
Samara Weaving from
She has
Ready
a
or
cameo
Not.
in it.
Yep. And Kirby's back.
Yeah, and I did know that because we caught her in the YouTube section. And
Mhm.
yeah, no, I got all of those Easter eggs, guys. every single one. I did not miss any of them.
And the Matt Lillard one in 5 too.
Yes, he's the gold.
He's the gold ghost face with the nunchucks.
And it's funny because when you're watching it, that part makes sense because it's a trailer, on the YouTube thing. But I remember seeing that when it was coming out, and I was like, why are they making him gold? And why does he have a flamethrower? I was like, they're gonna ruin it. So I liked it. I'm excited.
Yeah.
But I'm not getting too excited because I don't want to be disappointed. So now we're done talking about it. We'll go back. Go back to Freddy.
We'll have another episode about it later on.
Well, after we watch it, we have to.
Yes.
2 weeks. Down 2 weeks.
2 weeks. 2 weeks.
We've got 4 of the sequels we got to do before that one.
Go.
Well, I'm waiting on you guys. But the next one has to be back to regular format with donuts because I don't like this camera thing.
I missed the donuts too. I was going to get some this morning. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Do you know I seriously considered because I don't like people looking at me. So I actually considered drawing like a big smiley face.
Oh my
God. But then I was too concerned with trying to log on and I didn't get to do it.
Wow. I think we got it.
Think we got it?
I think you got it.
I think we got it.
Okay. Famous last words. Nightmare on Elm Street 3. I think general consensus is we really can't say anything bad about it.
Mhm.
We highly recommend it for everybody.
Yes.
Agreed.
I mean,
Yeah, definitely.
it's well worth your
Oh.
time, even though Jeff's, not a Freddy fan exactly.
No, I'm gonna say
He doesn't count.
I'll say the only thing I'm gonna say bad about this is the sweater's hot. And he's wearing all that makeup underneath it.
Mr. Rogers, what do you mean I can't take my sweater off? I'm hot. Although,
Exactly.
Jeff, you did say that if we go to Mahoning again for Freddy Fest, that you're like, I'd go up for Elm Street 3, maybe New Nightmare.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, those two I'll definitely go up for. I don't really need to see the other ones in that format. I was happy
Yeah.
to see one. I thought it was really cool. But past that, I'm like, I'm good.
Yeah.
Because one's always
New
going to be the
Nightmare
definitive.
was cool at the drive-in.
And I think they're done doing that.
Ken was at that one, right, Jay? Ken
What's
was
that?
there.
Yeah, they had some
was at that
Ken
one.
was there.
Oh, cool.
But I think they're done with Freddy Fest for now. They're putting on the back burner.
Okay.
temporarily.
Yeah, we talked to Jeff, the manager there, and he said
Nice.
they're not done with it completely, but I think they're just going to give it a little hiatus.
Okay.
Well, they're so
Because how many
successful
times-
with everything else they're doing, which is awesome. Like their Zombie Fest is just amazing. They just released their lineup for Zombie Fest for this
They
year.
did.
Mhm.
Never made one,
I
but
saw
they
that.
like some of the best films at that one. Like to see them take off is it's awesome to see that.
Yeah, I
First,
know.
Boys did a great
Yeah.
job.
Wait, you never did Zombie Fest before?
I never have. And
Oh my gosh.
We
I
go
haven't
camping
done
every
Zombie.
Memorial Day, and
I
that's
haven't
one
either.
every year, and I'm always looking like, oh. And this year, like awesome lineup. They have Fulci the Beyond. I'm like, I would love to see that.
That's
in
a
30.
messed up film.
Oh, I love that. It's my favorite Fulci.
I've done almost every year except for the year that Thea was born since
Wow.
2017. Yeah.
Wow, that's impressive.
That's good. That's good.
I think I'm probably going to go for Army of Darkness this year. And I'm
Nice.
excited to actually finish that one out. I would
Nice.
love to see the Beyond and the Fog. I think that would be really cool to see too.
Night of the Creeps.
Medieval
And the Creeps
Dead.
was one, that's right. I forgot that's one they're playing too.
Yeah.
Yep. A bunch of them.
Now we should do an episode there.
It's a good
We
idea.
thought about it. We
We
did
did.
one on the
shopping
way
mall.
up. Yeah. We recorded on the way up and then on the way back.
Shopping mall. That was great.
Yeah, wow.
That's
Shopping mall.
We should. I think I said this before. You should have a whole episode where it's broken up like this, but everybody's watching the same movie at the same time. You can have it in the top screen, like the top corner of the screen.
Mhm.
So
What
we're
do you call it?
watching
There's
it.
a name for that to do that. There's there's a program you could do that where you can actually record it while you're watching it. I can't think of what it's called though.
All right. Well, that's your homework. That's your
All
homework.
right.
There we
All right, we got
Hey,
it.
we'll do that. And then we'll
Uh,
have our own Mystery Science Theater thing.
Yeah, I'll say
Yeah.
forewarning. I don't
Oh,
shut
that'd
up.
be great.
The hands don't stop.
So,
I could just see Jeff. What the fuck is it?
Yeah.
well, see, then Jay, you have to be at that one because Jason is funny when you're watching movies with Jason. He is very funny commentary. Actually, my sister won't go to another drive-in movie unless Jason's with us because
no.
she had her. So see, it would you get a big audience.
Nice.
But see,
You should
that's
be a
why I
smart
brought you guys. I brought you guys Jason. Jason, I told you from the very first time I met these guys. I think in the very first podcast I did I not tell you that you guys would get along with my friends?
Oh yeah.
Exactly.
Oh yeah. Mhm,
I
mhm.
created a bromance now.
Being everybody at Monster Mania was amazing. Just hit it off right away, which I loved it.
Yeah, I don't know too many other people who enjoyed Last Action Hero, so that touched my heart, Jay.
Exactly.
Oh my gosh, I love it.
Arnold
Soundtrack.
Braunschweiger.
That's like the all-time best soundtracks out there too.
I'm a bromance matchmaker.
You are.
Yeah,
And you
can
fit
do
in
it.
with you fit in with the boys, Jen.
I do.
Yeah.
I've always been one of the boys. That's me. But not bromance way.
No.
You guys are bromance.
Yeah.
Well, we always said if we want to kick John out, we'll just get you full time.
Sorry, John.
I'm still gonna kick you out, John.
Secret, because when I'm in the room with John, I try to kill him anyway.
Oh,
Always
absolutely.
me.
Oh
Always
yeah.
You know, I should have had the glove. See, like remember when we did the
I
stream?
know, it's sitting-
I got to hold the knife.
Oh,
so it had something to do with my hand.
Well, Jeff, you want to just break out the box and show everybody? real
Yeah, give
quick?
me a hot second.
You got it. Yeah, go for it.
We actually got legit props because, as everybody knows, like on our
Surprised you're not
YouTube,
even wearing it right now.
on our YouTube thumbnail, we usually do like pictures and we post them up on Instagram where we create the thumbnails for the episodes and kind of make them like album covers. That's actually the reason why Jeff's got the sweater. 'cause
Breaking
I
my
brought-
own rule because I have a box for this thing. I'm like, I'm taking it out of the box and
So
out of the
the
box I built for it.
the prop glove we have is actually from and designed by the guys from Trick or Treat Studios, and it's
Okay.
the Nightmare on Elm Street 3 version.
Nice.
There it is.
There it is.
It's actually really cool looking.
I think that's legit brass and copper too.
Awesome.
It's got some
You'll
weight to
feel it. If you put that on, you'll feel the weight.
They do
Yeah.
quality work. Anything they put out,
Mhm.
amazing.
Yeah.
If you actually saw the picture of John holding my neck, as soon as I felt that tension.
Mm.
That's why if you notice my face is actually real because I grabbed his wrist because I'm like I'm not letting you grip my throat with those things.
Just imagine how I felt when we recreated the scene that terrified me as a kid with John's arm and the sweater and the glove looking like it's coming up through the couch, getting ready to suck me in.
Yeah, that was actually a fun day.
That was a
good
fun day.
Look, we didn't even get to do like a photo shoot now. I don't like this version.
Oh, just wait. Well, when next time you get together, we'll do one.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
Okay.
we got ideas in mind.
We can bring new Nightmare into it.
Okay, I'm down.
So should we wrap?
Donuts and photo shoot.
Oh yeah, hell yeah! There we go.
Yes.
So should we wrap this one up, fellas?
I think so.
Absolutely.
Alrighty. So with that being said, we shall sign off. This is Colin Peters.
John Rashetter.
Jeff Manfred.
Jen Harding.
Jay Dietzel.
Thank you all once again for listening. Stay safe. Stay crazy.
Please, somebody help me.
Oh yeah.